So I don't know if anyone saw in the Discord. I have been talking about this damned PC build for the longest time, 8 months to be exact. I finally managed to get my hands on a graphics card. It's only a 2060,
Huzzah!
but you know what? I will absolutely fucking take that. And I also want to give a special shout out to Kev. Thank you for letting me know that there was even a Micro Center in this area. I thought the only one... Yeah, I thought the only one was in Columbus. I had no idea, or at least the closest
I feel
one.
like this is very telling that you didn't watch me and Philbilly's build video, because I'm pretty sure we mentioned that that's where we got it from.
I think I might have turned it on briefly, but I didn't watch the whole thing. Yeah, but anyways.
Don't you understand that you have to watch every piece of content?
Every single piece of content. My eyes will bleed! But, it's kind of an odds and ends sort of situation, but I just kind of wanted to tell the story too. It's a weird mix. So I've been watching every single day whereabouts of what the stock of graphics cards looks like at Micro Center. And if I would have time, I'd just get in my car and hop over there. Well, it just so happens that the night before I had a morning free before I had to go to work, they had some graphics cards over at the Micro Center. They only had 4 of this card. I'm like, you know what? I just have to try, because I was having no luck with the shuffle. The shuffle was driving me up a damn wall. Cannot even begin to count how many of those I'd entered. So I told Kayla, it's like, we're getting up in the morning. We're going to Micro Center. Micro Center opens at 10. We woke up at 8, left the house by 8:30. By the time we got there, it was about 9:15, and of course, there was already a line at the front of the door. Holy shit. So we waited, and the whole time, I'm like, I'm not getting my hands on one of these. Well, 10 minutes maybe before the store opened, the manager comes out front and informs everybody that they have no 30 series cards, which turns out to be a lie, because I told you between segments they actually had a 3080 Ti when I was there. Mm-hmm. But he had said they have no 30 cards, unfortunately, and at that point, half the line literally packed up and left. They didn't even stick around to hear what he had to say. And what's crazy, too, is just like, I'm not knocking the AMD cards, but apparently nobody wants them, because he said that they have plenty of those.
That's insane, because I have
nobody
them,
wants
amazing.
Those.
I love my AMD.
Apparently nobody wants those 6,000 cards.
That's fucking dumb, man. I got 5600 Sapphire. It's AMD, and it's fucking amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. So
it's just dumb.
Yeah, the manager then informs everybody that day was going to be the last day that you will be able to go and physically go buy a graphics card, just like by going in the store. And I'm really confused. So he tells us that apparently Micro Center is moving to a lottery system as well. So now you go, and there's a 2-hour window, basically from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I think he said. And they basically count out how many graphics cards they have available. They scan a little QR code on your phone, and you wait. And they randomly pick however many people there are, or the number of people to graphics cards that they have. Not even like letting you sign up for which one it is that you even want. Mm-hmm. Just like there are some, this is the total number.
Right.
And then they shoot you a text message, and apparently you have to be waiting, because from what the guy said, you have then a half hour to buy it. Or else it is foregone. So,
Jesus.
And what's crazy too,
you can't even get there in half an hour.
Yeah, and what's crazy too is whenever I was checking out, they asked for my ID, which I thought was very strange.
Yeah, they asked for mine too.
Yeah, they are now limiting your purchases of graphics cards. Oh. If you buy a graphics card at all, they will not sell you another one for 30 days.
Well, good for them though on that front.
I mean they're making moves and everything.
So like Micro Center's a great store, man. If you want to get a good PC, man, they're the best.
I'd never been in a Micro Center before. It was my first time, and it really sucks too because how they're doing it. It's so bonkers. You go in there, they put you in a separate weird line in the store that wraps around by the processor case, and they tell you what they have, and you tell them what you want.
Yeah.
Then one by one, they collect your information, and then will walk that graphics card up to the front and hand you a piece of paper and tell you have to go check out right now, which sucks because I kind of wanted to look around in the store, but they very much force you up to check out right then and there and shove you out of the store the second you have your graphics card. And they didn't put it in a bag or anything, which kind of drove me crazy. So I had to try to hide it against my fat body as best I could so nobody could see what it was that I had.
You don't want to get mugged in the parking lot.
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, it was a really weird experience with that and that little nugget of information. So sounds like shuffles and random lotteries are the only thing that people have now. But I told you in the between segment, and I'm going to say it now, I don't have to give a fuck about the graphics card situation at all anymore. I am so glad. I don't even care. I have the last of my stuff coming hopefully Thursday, and whenever I get a spare second, I'll finally be able to put this thing together and stop talking about it.
I'm telling you right now, I'm putting all of that as a bonus.
Oh, you're not even ready.
That's not going to be on the show. There's no fucking way I'm going to let you have a fucking straight 8-minute story in the middle of the show. No, we're putting that as a bonus or beginning. Okay. I just want you to know that right now.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. And for whatever reason, you have decided to tune into another Horrible Gaming Podcast. I am not alone, however, nor am I ever. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. a wizard.
I thought you were tiny.
I'm just a wizard this week.
Just a wizard this week?
Barely a wizard, but a wizard. Barely alive.
I guess it's better than a.k.a. tiny. If you're going to drop a word off of it. So we have an interesting show for you. You guys got to see our late predictions on E3 last week, and now we're going to talk about our late predictions from last week. We're also going to discuss everything that happened on E3. But before we get to that, we have to, of course, do a couple of shout-outs. Number one, if you're watching this on YouTube, behind the fancy timestamps, you're going to see some fancy graphics. Anything that is not a stock photo is provided by Mr. Mark Bell, and we thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all of the shows here at OMG are provided by the man who makes the music, my brother, and we thank him for that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to the first segment, probably our most important segment. This is Fan-teraction. This is where us, the co-hosts, talk to you guys, the fans. We read out any of the comments we find in any of the places. You can contact us on Discord, Facebook, Twitter. We'll list them all at the end of the show, but you can also comment right below in the comments, and we'll read them out the week following this. So, it was Kevin all day today. So let's get into it. Kev Too Tall, 3 people means I am not alone. Celebration. And then, of course, he was alone this week.
Oh.
I know. Like, he celebrated because he had 3 people, and then they didn't post anything this week. But it's all right. Kev Too Tall, I am the content. I have a section named Variant for crying out loud. Yes, Kev.
That's fair.
He is something. He is something in general. I don't know. Kevin, are you applying to be a Foundation member? Is that what you're doing right now? Like, if you are, get in touch with me. We'll talk. But I don't know. My fear of making Kev Too Tall a Foundation member is it's like he's our biggest fan. It would be like, like deciding to date your best friend. You know what I mean? Like, you can't go back from there, and then you lose your best friend out of that. So I don't know.
And then at the same time too, somebody else will have to comment.
Right. Because if Kev's a Foundation member and he's commenting in every podcast, it's gonna look weird. The other thing too is if we're really looking at, Kev, you do comment on everything, and that is content, and I appreciate it. But if we're looking at actual media content that comes through the channel, the only other person who provides it is my brother, and I don't know that he's ready to be a Foundation member, and I know he's listening. I love you, brother, but I don't know that he would want that responsibility either. So, all right. So moving on, graphic fidelity doesn't even need to go higher. Amen. The amen was me. 4K TVs do not have the broad user base that the PS5 and Series X would like to see. They are outpacing the install tech base of their customers. How many kids with a PS5 in their room have a 4K TV in it? I doubt it's above 3%. Our whole house still has 1080p TVs. Game devs need to focus on the games and make it look good. Okay, so I got a couple of things to say before Neil jumps in. First of all, Kev, I, for the most part, completely and totally agree with you. I don't think the graphic fidelity needs to go higher. I don't think it's that much. I don't think it's clear. I now have a 4K TV. Not because I went out to buy a 4K TV, but my TV broke. It's a whole thing. I don't want to get into it here. But one of the things from this experience that I learned is that it's nearly impossible to buy a 1080p TV right now. It's insane. They're all 4K unless you're buying, I think the biggest one was a 43-inch, which isn't bad, but still, like, it's kind of crazy that they're already, like, replacing that when we don't even really need it that bad. So on that level, there might be quite a few kids with 4K TVs in their rooms. I'm not sure. I will say that I don't think we're there yet, and I definitely say that that doesn't mean that the game developers should be making for 4K or worrying about the graphical fidelity on 4K. I think they should be making a great game and not worrying about the graphics are going to be I think graphics should be second. I just do. What do you think, Neil?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. There are some kids. I'm sure there's some kid out there who's got like some huge 80-inch 4K like setup in their room, and their parents are loaded or whatever. So for somebody like that, sure, it's great and wonderful. But like you said, like, people play games for different things. Right. We want to make sure that they're fun. Some people, like myself, enjoy story. I don't play games to see pretty things. I want them to look good, or at least fit an art style, or have a point to them. But having things that are pretty just for pretty's sake is not necessarily the greatest thing. Take something like Red Dead 2. Just that game, they animated they animated the horse dick, like
horse testicles, and it actually got lower or higher depending on whether it was cold or hot out.
Like, who cares? I like, that's the sort of stuff that's crazy to me. And
oh man, it's even crazier if you really think about it, because you realize there was an entire team, like, knowing development
there
cycles,
had to been.
There was an entire team of people who were just on horse testicles that Rockstar picked out like 6 to 10 people and was like, guess what your jobs are? Make the horse testicles as realistic as possible. They had to go out to stalls and farms. They had to take pictures of horse testicles. They had to watch the horse testicles very closely in cold weather. They had to watch them very closely in warm weather. They had to take pictures of them in cold weather and warm weather. They had to take those pictures back. They had to animate them. There are 10 people at Rockstar that are so sick of seeing horse testicles. Like, they're experts. They're experts of horse testicles. That's insane to me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like graphics can only get so good. You can
Yeah.
only care about so much before it just winds up being overkill. So yeah, the graphical fidelity, while it does matter to some degree, is definitely not everything.
I mean, I will say I agree with the statement. I don't play video games to look at pretty things, but I will say that I I like to look at pretty things in games. Like that is nice.
Oh, yeah.
And there are definitely games where I play them and I go, just look at this shit. You know, that's great. But if there's no game behind it, I'm gonna be trading that in immediately. I'm gonna be getting rid of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
There's
that's
no
just
point to it.
Right. Like that wears off really fast. And yeah, I mean, we're also in an era right now where indie developers have kind of realized that, well, we can just make 8-bit games and we can make them, we can use all the technology we would be using in graphical fidelity for different mechanics in the game. And people like that just as much as your AAA experiences. So I agree. I 100% agree with this statement. Stop worrying about graphics. Just worry about the games and the bugs in the game. And then, you know, whatever the graphics are, we'll be happy with it. If it's a good game, we will like it. It doesn't matter how good it looks, you know?
Right.
Then he said, it's all about the cake. Because I brought cake back again. The cake analogy back.
Yes.
Then he had a whole post where it was just cake emojis, which I appreciated as well. Then he said, "Yay, Master gave praise." I'm not quite sure what that means. I think it's because we thanked him for something. But yeah. He then said, "The Zelda game you were searching for was Majora's Mask when I was having a hard time finding a third remaster. That would be an interesting remaster. Real interesting remaster, because that game did not really get a chance to shine. Did they win?
Yeah, they did it on 3DS.
Oh,
I have
didn't
it.
know that. I didn't know they put it on 3DS. I didn't know they put it on 3DS.
Yeah, I have it, and I
really
bought
didn't
it.
get a chance to shine on the 64.
Yeah, it was one of
late.
those.
It was real late.
Yeah, it was late. They reused a lot of assets in the same engine. But at the same time, it's that more of the good thing, and they tried to change stuff up with the whole time mechanic. I only briefly played it when I was like 11 at a demo thing at Walmart, and I had no concept of how any of it worked. Now, as an adult, I want to go back and play it, and like I said, I have it for the 3DS. I just haven't gotten around to playing it.
Right. And then his final comment is, maybe Streets of Rage won't give an approximate date until they have finalized content and are down to bug testing, like a proper game launch should be. Okay, Kev, I do want to say this. I'm 100% in agreement. My comments of waiting for them to give us a release date at the end of every trailer was not because I want them to rush the release date, just because I'm that excited for it that I just want that release date so bad. .mu, Lizard Cube, take all the time you need to make Mr. X's Nightmare absolutely amazing. You did the great job with the video game. I can't wait to see the DLC. Still, just know, there is a guy, a very old 40-year-old fat white guy, sitting somewhere every time you release a trailer like, oh my god, please let this be the one. Please let this be the one. So alright, so that's all for Fan Interaction, man, if you want to move on.
Sure.
Alrighty, let's head into the E3 mess.
Yes.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Alright, so that brings us to our first talking point. Listen, we're going to do two talking points, but they're both going to be E3. E3 was a 4-day conference. Day 1, we had Ubisoft and Gearbox. Day 2, we had Xbox, Bethesda, and I think Square Enix, although we're going to put that in the second talking point because I can't remember exactly where that was. And then we're going to take a little break transition. Then we're going to do Square Enix and Capcom, and we're going to do Nintendo for the second talking point. We're going to go through this chronologically, Neil, because it was an interesting E3. Real interesting E3. I think in a lot of
E3 that happened. That's what we can say.
Yes. I want to say So we're doing this chronologically, right? So we've got to start with Ubisoft. I want to say personally, while I don't know that everybody agrees with me out there, probably a lot of people don't. I think Ubisoft, hands down, has a great E3 showing on every other E3 that I've ever seen. In fact, I'm always excited for the Ubisoft showing because they almost always have something I'm interested in. Always. This E3 opens with Ubisoft's Forward, their special E3 Forward, and I do like that every one of these companies, right off the bat, they kept all of their personal names in the E3, almost like they were just releasing it at the same time instead of sparsing it out. You know what I mean? Like the Ubisoft was still called Forward. Nintendo still called theirs the Direct, but they always do. But then I think somebody else called one of theirs a thing, and I'm like, God, they're not even calling it E3 shows, not really. But aside from that, Ubisoft show was pretty crappy. I gotta say, there was nothing there for me. The only thing that looked even mildly interesting was the Rainbow Six Extraction game, which finally has a title.
Well, it had a title before, but recent events led them to have to change it. It was originally called Quarantine.
Yeah, but they changed it to Pandemic. And then they were like...
What?
Yeah, they did.
They changed it to Pandemic. I missed the part where they called it Pandemic.
Yeah, they call it... There was two different names, and then they were like, no, we can't call it that. And then it was like, all right, it's Extraction now. It's Extraction now. So, yeah, it was... like, that's probably the best thing they showed on Ubisoft, in my opinion.
Honestly...
Some other DLC... I do want to talk about the Avatar thing. If that's what you're about to talk about, I want to save that to the very end of the Ubisoft part. But do you have something else to mention then?
Yeah, right, Far Cry, I know you're not the biggest fan of Far Cry much anymore. So Far Cry 6, I do like Giancarlo Esposito. He's interesting. I like him and his acting roles and everything that I've seen him in, and he's gonna make a great villain. I love that little the cut scene basically that they showed. It's teasing out more of what's going to be coming in Far Cry 6, but at the same time, they only showed bits and pieces of what they already showed off for Far Cry 6, the gameplay reveal, and it wasn't even really much in the way of gameplay. What really kind of caught me from the Far Cry stuff is that season pass that made it look like you're playing through like a weird hallucination of all of the villains from 3, 4, and 5. So that one there, that actually kind of grabbed me a little bit, and I think it'll be a little interesting. But yeah, outside of that, that was really the only thing from Ubisoft's conference that made me kind of go, huh, okay.
I do want to take a moment before we get into the Ubisoft's big reveal and just say, I 100% called the Riders Republic release date. Did I not call the Riders Republic release date? Do you not remember me calling it?
Yeah, I remember you had said something about it. I can't remember what you had exactly said at that moment.
So Watch Dogs Legion, right? 2019, Watch Dogs Legion announces at E3 that they're coming out in January, February of 2020, right?
Yeah.
Then they delay it pretty fast and say, we don't have a release date. Then when they did have a release date, it was like early October, like October 1st or something like that. Like it was very close to my birthday. So Riders Republic was announced, I think like last year, and basically they were like for January, February, and then they delayed it indefinitely. Like they delayed it, and we don't have a release date, but we're delaying it. And I was like, oh, it was a January, February thing. They delayed it. It's going to be like Watch Dogs Legion. It's going to be late September, early October. It's like coming out September 12th.
All right. Yeah, I remember this now.
I'm very proud of that. I want credit for that because I called that nearly 100%. Like I think it was off by 2 weeks, and I'm pretty proud of that.
A winner is you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How often do we get to call things correctly here? Like,
right.
I was like,
Well,
yeah. Okay.
Well, before we get into the last thing of Ubisoft's, two notable omissions. One not surprising, Skull and Bones.
I really wanted to see something about that.
The other one that I'm starting to believe that they're not actively working on anymore or whatever is Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah.
I did not. I never played Beyond Good and Evil. I know of it, but that was shown off 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
Same
was announced.
I believe it was the same E3 as 76. So it would have been like 2017, 2018, one of those.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're still seeing absolutely nothing from that too.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer.
There's been no sort of update, even like newsy sort of update. So it just really makes me wonder what it is that they're doing. I'm sure it's getting some sort of work done on it because it's been highly anticipated. But at the same time, I don't know.
Well, what were they doing on it in the first place is my thing. Like, I feel like, and we're going to talk about this as the night goes on, but when that was announced, like, did they have anything done, or did they just go to a company and put together a CG show?
I think this was in that realm when everybody wanted to just like make the announcement of something being in development and get that hype train started. But the problem is it was so far out. Like that was it. I think there was a closed door demo, but for like press and whatnot. But outside of that, I don't think they've never shown gameplay to my knowledge.
Right. I mean, I don't know. There was a really in-depth trailer at that E3 that they showed it at, and I can't remember if that actually was supposedly including gameplay or not, but either way, I feel like it was just like the vertical of vertical slices, you know? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like what studio in their company would even be working on it? We know what they're all doing. Like, I don't understand what group of people is working on this game. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, it's just in the ether. Like, so yeah, that is a bummer omission. I want to move on to the Avatar announcement, though.
Yeah.
Can I ask you an honest question? And I don't know if I'm out of touch, but I feel like who gives a shit about Avatar in 2021? Like, I mean, the James Cameron movies, he's been making these movies for what? Like, 12 fucking years at this point, the sequels?
Yes.
And, like, they're like, it's going to come out this year and it never comes out. Does anybody believe, like, if those movies had just come out, okay, but those movies haven't come out, they're in development hell. What the fuck? Like, does anyone give a shit about this game? Like, it kind of surprised me that was their leading game. I'm like, it's a fucking Avatar game. That game came out, like, fuck, teenagers don't even know what that movie was. Like, I don't understand.
Pretty sure it was 2010, 2011.
2010? Right, 2010, 2011. That's 20 years ago, man. Like, it's 2021. I mean, no, that's 10.
That's 10. That's
Dude,
10 years.
It's midnight. It's fucking midnight. Everybody out there, it's midnight.
Yeah.
Math don't go well with me when I'm awake, let alone at midnight.
Well,
still, I mean, it's 10 years.
The point,
a 15-year-old was 5 when the movie came out. You know, like, that kind of shit. Like, it's like, who gives a shit about that? I was so floored that so much work is being put into that Avatar game that we saw so much of it that I'm like, what? Who is working on this? And why? Why would anyone work on this?
And that was their big and one more. It literally led with the line, and we have one more thing to show you. I'm like, oh. I was expecting the Star Wars open world game that they've been working on.
I was thinking that they were hiring for it. They just started hiring for it. They're not going to have shit for it.
Yeah, but I was thinking that they were going to throw out like one of those CG trailers or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I was expecting, that they were going to show up for that.
I know Phil really wanted to get some information on that too, because that's got his interest expertly piqued right there. Because he asked me about that immediately, and I was like, no, I think it's just too early for the Star Wars one.
Probably, yeah.
Still, I know they have a free-to-play Division game that they're working on that's supposed to come out this year. Like, it's supposed to be in beta next month. Why don't we see any of that? Like, I mean, there's just so much stuff I feel like Ubisoft could have shown us that wasn't this. I mean, it is a new game, and, I mean, not a new IP, it's a licensed IP, but there are no real Avatar games, so it's kind of a new IP. It's just, I don't know, I think it's bonkers and so out of touch that it did not impress me in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I don't know what it is that possessed them to show that off. From what I've heard, that it was actually like announced at one point years ago, but nothing was shown for it.
Yeah.
But now is the time that we bring it out, and it's again like I would understand if James Cameron dropped a trailer for Avatar 2 or something like that.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, well, here's the game. And it's like, oh, it's a big open world Ubisoft's doing, explore Pandora first person, which is what the game is going to be. And I think I would be a little bit more interested in it at that point. But at the same time, not only is it an Avatar game, if you back that lens out just a bit more, it is a licensed game.
Right.
How often do licensed games just like blow the doors off of everything?
Right. I mean, we've had
weird.
a couple of Star Wars games do that. I mean, there's very few licensed products that actually go the distance. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I hope the game is good. I hope every game is good. But I just think it was crazy for this to be their set piece.
Right.
But that's Ubisoft for me, unless you remember anything specific you want to talk about.
Not really.
All right, so let's move on to Gearbox. And we're done, because that was basically the Gearbox show. Why did they even show up to this fucking thing? Can we talk about that for a second? You had Ubisoft. Day one was Ubisoft, then Gearbox. Gearbox, here's what they threw out at us. And we're going to have to talk about this, because we talked about this 2 shows ago, and this is making PlayStation look real bad. But first, they showed Borderlands Wonderlands, which we already saw at Summer of Gaming. And then the only other thing they showed was DLC for Godfall. What? How do you still have people working on it? And I am a huge proponent. I always like it when a company doesn't quit on a game. I really do. I'm a guy who likes it when they stick with the game. That being said, Godfall is so far past the point of done. I'm surprised that anyone is still plugging away at that thing. But even more so, get this, it's going to PlayStation 4. So
I heard that.
So let's count it now. The exclusives, the big exclusives that PlayStation, that Sony said that they would have, that not only did they say they would have, that their entire platform was, we're not putting this on the old system because we don't believe in holding our games back. Every fucking one of them, other than Ratchet and Clank, could have been on PlayStation 4. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, they have sold a load of bullcrap now. If Godfall goes to PlayStation 4, that literally means the only exclusive on PlayStation 5 is Ratchet and Clank. Every other game coming out for PlayStation 5 could have been on the PlayStation 4. They are selling you a load of shit when they are saying that, oh, these games aren't holding, we're not holding it back. No. They don't have the game technology to even utilize these systems yet. They're not going to have it for another 2 years. The only reason they were going to put these games on PlayStation 5 and not PlayStation 4 was to make you buy a PlayStation 5. Don't believe anything else that they say. And as far as backpedaling, man, have they backpedaled. They have backpedaled into the fucking lake as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think part of that is really just from well, not really just from, but I think part of that is from the fact that they realize now, oh crap, we can't get these systems out fast enough, and it's hurting software sales. So they would much rather spend the money to develop down, their games that are on PS5 that don't rely on the PS5 tech to try to sell that software to people who still have their PS4s.
That's the key word there, though. Don't rely on PlayStation 5 tech. That right there means that it never needed to be on PlayStation 5. So when they are like full on selling to you, these games are on PS5 because they can't be anywhere else, it's bullshit. And that pisses me off. Their whole platform is a lie, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it's a fucking lie that it's sold to the public. Like, you could have had every one of these games on PlayStation 4 in the first place. And I think hindsight is always 20/20, but man, does Xbox look really good right now. Because their whole strategy of putting shit, and don't worry, we're going to get into Xbox looking bad in a little bit, but but as far as their strategy goes, their whole strategy of putting things on multiple different systems, and everybody going, oh, well, it's holding the games back, Okay, now they look like they're not lying. They look like, yeah, it's not holding the games back because we can't make games that good yet, so it's not holding the games back. When the games get that good, we'll move it to the next system. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Whereas now PlayStation looks like fucking assholes. I'm sorry. They look terrible right now. Compound that with the fact that they did not show up to E3 to counter any of this. I mean, they haven't been, and that's their strategy, but they look the worst. Like, if we're going to talk about who the winner of E3 was, but the losers is hands down Sony. Hands down was the loser of E3, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, overall, I think all of us, collective as gamers, were losers this E3. Let's be real.
Look, I will say honorable mention to them doing it. Because,
yeah.
And I think a lot of this was just like, we can do this now. You know what I mean? I feel like there's something about that, but still, I think you're right. I think this E3 was pretty weak on a whole, even though the fucking world is going crazy about this E3. Like, I hate being negative. I hate being the guy who's negative, but I think we're the only people who are negative about this right now because this was not a great E3, like even remotely. But I think we've covered Gearbox because that's it. That's all they gave us.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to Xbox because I know we both have a lot to say about that before we move into the second talking point. So Xbox. Let's get into the Xbox thing. All right. I don't even know where to start on this. I don't know where to start because I feel like the world has collectively gone mad with this whole Xbox show. I don't even know where to start. Pick a place to start, Neil, because
let's start at the very beginning. Let's start at the very beginning.
All right.
Starfield.
Okay. All right. Let's start about.
So
it's nothing. It's nothing. We didn't see anything from it. You fucking lunatics on the internet who are like, we finally saw Starfield. You didn't see shit. You saw a guy walking into a ship and flying around. That's it. Not only that, I will put money down on the table right now, Neil, and I'm sorry. I know you started talking and I just took over, but the Starfield thing...
Usually how it goes.
Sorry. The Starfield thing is a trigger word for me right now because I will put money... I'll put every dollar I have in my wallet right now. That game does not come out in 2022. It's bullshit. It is one of these crap CGI trailers that everybody wants us to see Starfield, so they literally just made a trailer and they showed you a trailer. None of that's in game. That game isn't even close to being finished. I'd stake any amount of money on it. Any amount of money on that.
Yeah, they definitely did not have anything to show because, one, they didn't show anything. They didn't show any sort of gameplay, anything like that.
Nothing.
But
you're telling me it's coming out next year?
Yeah,
fucking bullshit.
Yeah, 2, it was like fully, totally 100% like leaked. Oh, it's going to be there, beforehand. And the icing on the cake that we cannot get away from, the fucking cake metaphor. But the icing on the cake is they made it a point to go out of their way after the trailer finished, and it's going to be an Xbox exclusive, expecting fanfare. I don't know.
You know what? And let's talk about that for a second. If you're going to go on E3 and make a big deal out of saying it's an exclusive, your company better not come out 2 days later with an apology to PlayStation players, because that's what they just did. And I don't know if you saw that, because I know you're very busy.
Ooh, no.
But they, in the
I didn't see that.
I think it was last night. They apologized. They have a statement saying, "We are sorry to PlayStation players who are frustrated. We understand that this is not. We understand that this is frustrating. All we can do is apologize to you." They apologized to Sony players that the game is exclusive. You better not do that. I'm sorry. That immediately deflates the entire argument that fucking show was good.
Yes, it does.
Like, that's insane.
Wow. Yeah.
And you know what? That's the first fucking thing Bethesda did. I'm sorry, I interrupted you again. I apologize. But that's the first fucking thing Bethesda did that they should... you should apologize to Sony players. Because it shouldn't be exclusive. You fucking cock monkeys. Oof. Sorry, it's late.
Yeah,
so I'm swearing in
yeah, ways. No, you're fine. Like that, yeah.
Fired up.
I don't understand. I really don't understand why they wanted praise for that. Yeah. I don't understand why they wanted praise for showing off the release date in the trailer as like a part of like the thing. I mean, it is going to be a Series X game, so it's not going to play on the One. So that's one of those new up-and-coming, rumored exclusive games for the Series X. But, yeah, don't get me wrong, I've been very curious about Starfield. But then at the same time, I guess Todd Howard straight up called it Skyrim in space. Yep. And I don't necessarily want Skyrim in space. I want a little bit something extra out of it. Right. More like actual exploration and on planets and discovery and shit like that.
I just don't understand. He also called it a Han Solo simulator, and nothing in that trailer said to me Star Wars. It was like a realistic spaceship. Like, no offense to Star Wars. Star Wars is really cool, but it's space fantasy. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like super science fiction-y. That looked like a science fiction-y ship. He was in a fucking space, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It did nothing about that trailer screamed Star Wars to me, and he called it a Han Solo simulator.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
So, I guess the next one that we can tackle is Halo Infinite, and I'm just going to jump in and take a little bit of a lead on this one.
Okay, I do like you leading me to the next rant. That's fine.
Yeah, I will guide you along this gilded road unto your next bitching.
I'm sorry, it's late and I'm fired up about this.
No, you're fine. So, the Halo Infinite stuff, it's two parts because it's two separate things, and they very clearly made that distinction that the Halo Infinite campaign is going to be its own separate side thing, assumedly not having anything to do with multiplayer at all, from what it sounds like.
Right.
And then the multiplayer being free to play off on the side. There are things that are confusing. There are things that I am very nervous about now. First, when they showed the actual Halo Infinite campaign stuff, they basically pulled the camera out of where they showed us last year, and that's it. We saw no new gameplay, anything like that. And I would put money on the fact that they have not spent this time really doing anything with the actual campaign for this delay. I think they've been focused more on the multiplayer because that'll get them more money. I think that Halo Infinite is in the same or near same condition that it existed when we saw it last year. They did the delay to work on other things and just made it seem like they were on the up and up with that. Once that game sells, they are probably not going to make any other money off of anybody. It's you pay $70 or have your Game Pass where you would get it anyways. They're not getting anything else out of you. And the multiplayer looks good. I think the multiplayer looks good. It looks like a nice evolution. It has me not so worried about the free-to-play mechanics of everything, because they were kind of going towards that with Halo 5 Guardians. I think that being a free-to-play game, the stuff that they had in Guardians is more, like, I'm more welcoming of it. But what they showed is some multiplayer gameplay. They had no information about test flighting, betas, anything like that. And they chose to put the actual bulk of information about the multiplayer in a separate video that went up after the conference, which made zero sense whatsoever to me. And putting those two back together as a whole unified thing, we still don't have an official release date. It's still holiday 2021, which makes me wonder if it's even going to hit 2021.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that is one prediction I said. It wasn't going to hit 2021. It's going to be a 2022 game. I said that in them predictions. So I'm very excited about that getting fucking delayed. I will say this. Well, I'm not excited. I don't like it when games get delayed. I don't want people to think that. I'm just excited about being right. So there's very few times. Well, I don't say very few times, but a lot of times we differ at least a little bit on an opinion. I don't even think I need to talk about this. I think you echoed my thoughts almost perfectly on the Halo thing. If I have anything to add, I'll say Halo Guardians was a really shitty campaign with a great multiplayer. I have never been worried about the multiplayer for Halo Infinite. That's not what concerns me. What concerns me, and probably the rest of the world, is the campaign, which they fucking botched in 5. And I don't see why anybody thinks they're not going to botch it here, especially when they are trying to do a completely different mechanic with this open world stuff. And what really worries me, just like you said, is the pullback of that camera. They just did that because they're like, well, they can't screenshot Craig this way.
Right.
That's all that was. It was a ploy to do that. And so you kind of echoed my thoughts. You could lead me into the next rant, my friend.
Oh, well, what else did we see? Well, I'll tell you one thing that wasn't there. We did not get any Fable information, which I was expecting. I was straight up expecting. They did not have anything there. But there is the actual Bethesda end of stuff that was a part of the Microsoft showcase. I'll tell you, what was it, Redfall, the thing that they ended on from Arcane? I
had some words on that.
That did 0 for me.
Okay.
Absolute 0 for me.
What was interesting is you almost got that right, because you said that Arcane should be about to release a game, and you thought it was Dishonored 3. And I think it's just so interesting that they are releasing a game, and it's whatever. You know what I mean? I think that, Redfall did nothing for me at all. But it might do something for other people. What I want to say right now, for the record, the footage that they showed for Elder Scrolls 6, back when they first announced it, was not Redfall. They are lying to you. Internet, stop listening to people. Seriously. They came out and said that, like, the footage of the landscape that they showed with the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Was Redfall. I'm like, then why was there a big Elder Scrolls 6 written over it, you dumb fuckers? Like, no way that was Redfall. I don't buy it for a second. And if it's got the same landscaping, it was because you guys decided to make Arcane use that. But that's it. Like, that was not Redfall. They're trying to pull the wool over your eyes. They sell that Elder Scrolls, and they're trying to make it like, well, we never said that Elder Scrolls was really coming out. It was Redfall the whole time. It said Elder Scrolls. Sorry, guys. It did. Watch the tape. I want to talk just a little bit about what Xbox did do right, and what a lot of the undercurrent of Xbox was, their Xbox show, and that is Games Pass value. Games Pass value has only increased. Back for Blood, day one into Games Pass. You've got Dark Alliance, day one into Games Pass, although we already knew about that. Forza Horizon 5, day one into Games Pass. And I'm actually very excited about that game. To me, that was their set piece. Even though everybody says it's like Starfield and all this other shit, that was their set piece because we got gameplay from that. We saw that. Playground Games is amazing at doing those games. I cannot wait to see that game in October. Like, I just can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. So they did do that right. They did like really bolster the value to Games Pass. But I want to say this. They definitely did not win E3. And it was, again, a lot of fucking bullshit announced trailers. And I'm sick of those. If you don't have gameplay to show me, you're fucking lying. That's how I'm looking at the games industry at this point. You've lied to us so many times. You've put things in development hell so many times. You've delayed so many times that if I don't see gameplay, I want nothing to do with it. I'm not even accepting that it's real. Like, I'm just not. It's bullshit. And, yeah, I mean, there's nowhere else to go from that one, I think.
Yeah, well, I did want to mention Microsoft it was like at the end of their conference or whatever, had this whole big to-do about, hey guys, look, we have new releases every single month for the foreseeable
6 months,
future, or something like that. And it's like, I had seen an article somewhere, the Xbox game drought is over. If you are in a drought, and you want and need water, you need rainfall. You do not want a cloud that passes over and sprinkles rain for a whole 5 minutes.
Right.
You want a torrential downpour of this sort of stuff.
Well, and the games coming out...
drought...
Yeah. The games that are coming out for the next 6 months are like Ascent and fucking Psychonauts 2, and like they're not
Psychonauts I'll accept because that's like a cult game. It's had a very long crazy development, but I could give that one a pass.
But it's cult. Nobody's like buying an Xbox to get Psychonauts 2. I don't
right.
You know.
But my view on this is people are, you made all these moves, buying all these studios, this, that, and the other, like making all these big power plays to shore up your difference in your availability of games. But the games that are coming out are smaller games that people aren't necessarily looking towards. And that's nothing against those games that are coming out. I'm sure they're great.
Yeah.
But I would not consider that to be something that solves all of Xbox's first party problems.
Yeah. I agree. I completely agree. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've done the Xbox thing. I think we need to move on unless there's anything else you want to
add. No, I don't think so.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our second talking point, or more realistically, the second half of our E3 bitch fest. So Monday, that brings us to Monday. I think actually Square Enix was on the day of Xbox, but if we're out of chronological order, don't kill us, whatever. But it was Capcom, and it was Square Enix. So I'm going to do the Capcom one real quick because I don't think there's not a lot Capcom offers that you care about.
Well, no, there is. No,
okay.
Devil May Cry, Street Fighter, this, that, and the other. I have words about Capcom's conference.
I mean, the only thing they did was Resident Evil and Monster Hunter, if I recall correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my words. Why are you having a conference?
Right.
when the Monster Hunter thing was shown off at Nintendo's conference too,
Yeah, which we're going to
anyways.
talk about. And it was shown off better at Nintendo's conference.
Yeah, like, I really don't understand. And again, the only real announcement that we got from Capcom's show outside of the Monster Hunter Stories 2, I think it was called, official announcement, was the fact that, we're now developing DLC for Resident Evil Village. When, let's be real, you guys had that in the works before.
Oh, yeah.
They had it in the works for when they did DLC for 7. It's not like, you guys bought so much of the game, we're going to do the DLC. No, that's not how that worked. Capcom's conference, I was expecting like an announcement of at least a new character for Street Fighter V, but all they talked about was the fact that the Pro Tour exists.
The Pro Tour?
Like, yeah, the Capcom
Pro Tour.
Yeah, the Capcom.
I thought you said it all as one word, like Pro Tour. Like, I am Pro Tour. I come for your women. But
yeah, just the fact that the
Pro
Capcom
Tour is angry. That needs to be a Halo character as soon as we do that show again.
I'm sure we have to do that soon, actually.
That's what we should name Mandible Guy permanently.
Pro Tour.
We already had 17 names.
Pro Tour.
Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Pro Tour of the one Mandible.
I am sure we are going to forget that.
Oh, we're going to forget this entire conversation.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, Capcom did not need to have a show. It was only, half hour anyways? Like, I was expecting there to be something of substance. And they zhuzhed it up like something important. And, I mean, not to downplay, announcements of any sort, but, like, it really was absolutely pointless. That could have been a Facebook post.
I was very upset because I was expecting Monster Hunter World 2 announcement there. Mainly because that's, development-wise, that's where we are. I know we're getting a lot of Monster Hunter content with Rise. And with Stories 2, excuse me again. Sorry, everybody, very unprofessional, but I'm drinking a lot of carbonation right now. I know we saw a lot of Monster Hunter stuff, but we're still ready for a Monster Hunter World 2. The world is ready for a Monster Hunter World 2. I think Rise is fine. It definitely doesn't scratch my Monster Hunter World 2 itch, which the world knows at this point, because they all hate me for saying that. But but still, I think that, like, this was the show to announce it, and we didn't even hear about it. Like, we didn't even get a, like, we're working on that. Like, that's kind of crazy to me. So, yeah, I mean, I tell you who did come out the box, which really surprised me, and this is going to definitely piss Phil Billy off, because he hates this company, and I, respectively so, I understand why. But Square Enix had a really good show. All in touch. I would actually say they're either third place or runners up, in my opinion. The Guardians of the Galaxy really was a solid trailer. I mean, whether or not it's a solid game, different thing. And before Phil Billy ats me, because I know he's already in his car mad listening to this in the future, I don't think Square is a good company. I don't necessarily think any of these games coming out are going to be good and not buggy. What I am saying is, objectively, comparatively, just their show, was really good. It was a good show. It definitely did the right things. It had the right moves. It had the right announcements. The Guardians of the Galaxy game looked really solid and interesting. I thought Square was interesting. There was another thing at Square, too, that I got that I thought was cool, but I can't remember what it is to save my life, so I guess it wasn't that cool, but at the time I did.
Well, Square's show, first and foremost, before the show even started, the fact that Matt Mercer was doing the voiceover for it was very odd, but I don't know, I like his voice, so it's very soothing.
Helps. Yeah.
But, the Guardians stuff, the Guardians game, I think it was rumored to have been in development and is now officially, announced and everything. It looks interesting. It looks like it could very well be a very action-oriented, but it looks like from the gameplay they showed that it's also going to be like a Telltale thing, which is also weird because Telltale did a Guardians game. So I don't know how to feel about.
Looked pretty action. I know it's not RPG. I know it's an action game, but it looked very Like, it looked like it had an in-depth combat system from what I saw.
The one that kind of really grabbed me in weird ways, I guess, was the what was it called? Stranger in Paradise. The Team Ninja one that's it's very confusing when you look at it. It's just some dude killing people and turning them into crystals, and I'm like, oh, so this is just like a new Final Fantasy game. And it's like, oh, Team Ninja, what in the world? And then they get up there and it's like, oh, it's Garland. Oh, wait, is this a Final Fantasy game? I don't know if it's not a Final Fantasy game. I'm very confused. And it's like, somewhat Final Fantasy game, and it's like demo available soon. I was like, oh wow, I might have to just throw the PS5 together and check that out.
Right.
And I had some intention of doing that, but I guess it's a good thing I didn't, because apparently the entire demo was corrupted.
Oh wow.
The demo that they put out. Yeah, the demo that they put out for the PS5 was completely corrupted. Phil card
just was like, I told you, fucking Square Enix.
So I mean, it didn't like ruin people's consoles or anything. It was just corrupted and it wouldn't open. I don't know if the problem's since been fixed, but that one's kind of interesting. But in regard to Square, a noticeable omission is Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, and we know it already has been announced too.
Yeah, which also leads me to believe that there is going to be a PlayStation show, maybe in July, after the whole hubbub of E3 is done and over with. And then they'll be like, oh, well, here's our actual E3 showcase, because that game is going to be a PlayStation exclusive. Now, whether or not it's going to be a PS5 exclusive at this point, who fucking knows?
Right.
But... yeah, I'm thinking that Sony is going to have something at some point, but Square's.
Sorry, I thought you were. Keep going. I didn't mean.
I was just going to say, Square's show overall. I mean, they focus the majority of their time on the Guardians game, which is fine. I've got no qualms with that, because they didn't have much else to show off.
Yeah, going back to the Sony thing, I hate to say this, but, again, I think if they have a show later in July, it's a mistake. They should have had it here to compete. Yeah. They really should have. And their whole thing, one of the problems I had with them not showing here is their whole reason for not going to E3 the last 2 years before this was because it was too much money, which I understand. To actually put on a press conference at E3, you have to rent the space. You have to, and that space is astronomically expensive. Then you have to build the exhibits. You have to build the showroom stuff. It's huge. It's huge to actually go to a conference like that. They're spending millions of dollars just to do this show. I get that. This was all internet, man. It was all, you didn't have to rent a hall, you didn't have to do anything. There is literally no reason for you not to put your state of play at somewhere in this E3 and actually have a showing. Now you're off by yourself. You're already kind of in the hole because people are not happy with this whole backpedaling thing. And what could they possibly show at this state of play? I mean, other than Final Fantasy 16, it's going to be retreads of Horizon. We'll probably get actual footage of Ragnarok, whatever that's going to end up being, the God of War stuff. But we already know that's there. It's already been announced. We already know it's kind of it's going back and forth, so people are already upset with it, and Ratchet and Clank is out. It's already out. It's a great game from what I hear, but it's out. It's done. So, what are they going to show at this state of play? It's going to be crap, whereas this E3 wasn't that amazing. It really wasn't. It would have been very easy to throw your hat in the ring, and you might have come out looking a lot better than you're going to come out going off into a corner and trying to get everybody's attention.
It's funny. At this point, I feel like Sony is doing its own thing just because, they don't want to be. Yeah. They don't want to be seen as going back to Big Daddy E3. Right. I almost get this mental image of Sony being that rebellious kid in an 80s movie that always has blue jeans with a white T-shirt and a black leather jacket.
Right.
And just like popped its collar and walked away is like, I'm too cool for you kids. But then all of the other
I'm
kids,
not gonna clean my room.
all the other kids are all having fun together, and then Mr. Popped Collar E3 is looking on longingly at all the other kids having fun and wants to join in on the party, but then remembers how stupid they'd look for going back.
Sony's the after-school special kid.
It's just like, I don't. It's beyond me as to why they have this aversion to E3 now, especially because it's everything that they want. They don't have to spend all this money to set up gameplay demos if they don't have to, even though there's that demo available for that Stranger in Paradise game. You know, like, and that sidebar, back to that real quick, I forgot to mention this. That is something that I want to see at E3s moving forward. Here's the game. We're going to make a demo for you to play. Yeah. Just so you can try it out and try out what you know you got there.
Well, we're going to talk about that on the Nintendo show, too.
Yeah, but I don't know what Sony's deal is with it, and especially given, like I said, the Final Fantasy 16 would have fit very well and it would have been a shining jewel alongside Guardians at this Square show, but I feel like it's being held at ransom.
Well, and Square also showed off Final Fantasy Origins, too. Which, I mean, a lot of people are excited about that. Like, I thought it was a good side thing to kind of complement Guardians. But yeah, the Sony thing is, it's insane. Like, their whole reason when they decided to step away from it, their whole statement was it costs too much for no benefit. There is literally no overhead now. Like, what are they paying to put it on the internet at a certain time? Nothing. So, like, I don't understand the reasoning behind it at all. But let's go ahead and move on to the presentation I feel actually won E3, regardless of the insane internet right now, with the exception of Adam Sessler on B4G4. I cannot wait for G4 to actually start. And you know what?
Same.
Dude, before we get into this, before we go any further, I want to just 100% shout out Adam Sessler. If you guys out there are game fans, especially game fans of like reviews and in-depth stuff with a little comedy, go find B4G4 and watch things with Adam Sessler. In my opinion, he is the best hands-down game journalist other than us. And we're pretty terrible. But he is hands down right now the best game journalist to get your stuff from. His reviews are on point. They're precise. He goes into them very well. He always does something funny with them too, like he used to do on X-Play, so they're entertaining. He is right now killing it. I love old cranky Adam Sessler. Please, anybody go check it out. But other than that, let's get into the show. The Nintendo Direct kicked ass, man. And I am never a fan of Nintendo Directs. You know me. I'm usually a Nintendo hater. I spit the Nintendo hate very heavily usually. And I thought the Nintendo show was amazing. It was everything it needed to be. And then some.
Yeah, well, almost everything. We'll get into that.
We'll get into that because I think we actually will differ on our opinions of what you're speaking of. But that's the end of the show.
So I'm just gonna blurt. I'm just gonna blurt it out now. Metroid Dread. I'm that, and that's
your point. That was your dead-on prediction. Crazy.
Right there. That's got such a crazy backstory to it too. The fact that it was teased in, I think it was Metroid Prime or Metroid Prime 3. It was one of the Metroid Prime games. It was a scannable journal entry. It's how you would pick up all the lore from the game and everything going on in the world. And Dread was referenced there. And it was originally announced that it was in development for, I think it was the DS or whatever, but they couldn't get it to come together.
Right.
And then watching a little bit of the Treehouse stuff for Dread, I didn't get through the whole presentation, but they were talking to the guy, I believe it was the director or the producer, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the director.
Mentioned that they actually tried a second time to start up development of Metroid Dread, and it fell through. But now it's coming. It's coming. It is an official numbered entry too. Is Metroid 5, and apparently the end of. I think they said something about Samus's journey with the Metroids. I don't know if that means like Metroids are totally done, or like they're trying to
Kill Samus.
I don't know, do
Samus
something.
might be dead.
Well, I already think I know what the plot of this is going to be, because I'm kind of into the lore of Metroid, and I'm going to assume.
We don't have time to go down that rabbit hole, my friend.
Yeah,
I love you very much.
I'm gonna assume that I know what it is.
Metroid for an entire hour and 10-minute episode.
Absolutely, I could. But I think it's very interesting. The name implies what they're going for with this. Right. And the fact that you are getting this alien sort of stalker, if you're caught, instant kill sort of thing. And that is definitely going to clench my asshole for a long time playing that game. But I am absolutely 100% ready for it. I did not think that we were ever going to get another 2D Metroid, let alone one that is an actual numbered entry.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was a great way to open the show. I really did. Now, I'm going to go on record. I'm already on record as saying, this is not my game. This is not a game made for me. It just isn't. I'm not a 2D guy. I like certain 2D games, but I've never been a Metroid guy. But objectively, this is just a way to open the show. This was a big announcement right off the bat. Got everybody excited. Although this didn't open the show, I forgot. There was one thing before this, but we'll talk about that too. But this was... I actually think this should have opened the show. I really do. I think this should have been your big announcement, but Nintendo always likes to go in soft for some reason. But
yeah,
it was a great trailer. And I mean, like I actually was watching it and thinking to myself, man, maybe I will try this. Like, that's how good that trailer is. Is a game that I have personal disdain for. They're not bad games. They're just, I hate playing them. That trailer was so good that I was like, maybe I'll try this game I hate. Like that, it was a great trailer, great showing from them. I will switch gears now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'll talk about the actual opener, which, why does Nintendo love to open with the new Smash Brothers characters? They just love to open with the new Smash. I know Smash Brothers is popular, but like, I always feel like you need heat at the beginning and you need heat at the end. And, like, there's just no heat in a DLC character. Nonetheless, they are adding Jun Kazuya from Tekken to Smash Brothers. And can I just say, that trailer, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me with the Dread trailer, but that trailer was hands down the best trailer, though, because it was
fun.
It was so fun. It was so fun. Just for anybody who didn't watch it, the whole Tekken lore is like Heihachi, the old guy, like throws Jun off a cliff into an active volcano because he's so afraid of Jun's power. Jun, of course, survives because anime. But this was like Jun. Like, you see Jun walking, and it's with Ganon, and he throws him into the active volcano. Then he comes back with Falcon, and he's just one by one throwing all the Smash people over the volcano. The arms one was hilarious, because the one arm gets caught, and he's got to, like, kick it off. And then the last one he does is Kirby. He tosses Kirby in, and then you see Kirby, like, float away behind him. It was just such a fun, great trailer. It really was. And I chuckled through the whole thing, and I like a little bit of comedy. I was laughing. I was like, that's funny. I'm enjoying that. Even though that's not for me, I was entertained by it, and I really appreciated that on an E3.
Yeah, that trailer, I mean, I have at least the 2 season passes for all the characters, so I'll end up getting him when he comes out. Right. But what's wild is, over time here, with Smash characters, they've started doing this thing to where they're all kind of unique and they have their own gimmicks that fall outside the realm of the standard Smash character. Mm-hmm. And apparently, from what Sakurai showed off, essentially Kazuya's literal entire moveset from Tekken can be performed in Smash, and I have zero clue how that happens. I mean, it has to be like the same button inputs, but that works very strangely in Smash. But I mean, they pulled it off for Street Fighter, so I don't know. I'm sure they found a way to do it, but yeah, it's an interesting. There's one more character left that they're going to announce, and from what I understand, that's the last one, and they'll finally let Sakurai die in peace.
I think it's truly interesting too that Super Smash Brothers is the Super Smash Brothers Ultimate is literally the only game, like historically, that you can have Ryu from Street Fighter, Terry Bogard from Fatal Fury, right?
Yeah,
Fatal Fury.
Yeah, Fatal Fury.
And Kazuya from Tekken in the same match. That's absolutely crazy. All you need is Scorpion.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah. All you need is Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. You literally have every guy from any fighter out there. It's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
Next thing to talk about. Oh, and if you guys haven't figured out, we're skipping the Horrible Arena again this week. We might be possibly giving it a break for a little bit. Neil's schedule is a little bit rough with the adjustment to the new house, so we're just he doesn't have a lot of time to work on those, so we might be giving it a couple week break. Just bear with us. But we're still going to talk for an hour and 22 minutes, so
it will find a way.
Right. So what do we want to talk about next? The next
I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, the Mario Party, the new Mario Party game.
Great announcement.
Yeah, that was totally. I wasn't expecting anything like that. It's a lot. It's just a best of collection with the mini games from the older games and maps completely remastered and updated, which is great because I do enjoy those larger maps that they have. We talked about that whenever we did Prelude. I enjoy those bigger maps, and some of those older mini games are just iconic. And it was also a game that I was not expecting at all. I never would have thought anything like that. But it's also going to have online play.
It's going to have matchmaking, Neil. So like the one upstairs doesn't have matchmaking. You have to play with your friends. Most Switch games don't have matchmaking. You have to play with your friends. This is going to actually have online matchmaking. That's kind of amazing to me.
And if you're playing a game with friends, you can, in fact, pause the game and come back to it.
Yep.
So that's wild. Nintendo actually doing something like somewhat revolutionary in the online play space. I never would have thought I'd seen the day.
I gotta say I know it's a Mario Party. That one really wowed me. And while you said you weren't expecting any sort of announcement like this, I think you meant directly to the Mario Party, which I totally get. I was definitely expecting a collection. It wasn't Mario Party. They always announce some sort of remastered collection, but the way they're doing this is great. I love the things they're doing. They're definitely this game. For me, even though it might not be people's bags, might be a turning point for the one weakness that the Switch really has, and that is its internet and its multiplayer based support is just not there. It's rare and not great. It's hard to talk to other people on it. It's hard to get into parties. It's hard to play with people. So this is really interesting stuff that they're doing with this one. So I really did like that announcement. And man, it launches in October. And just to let you guys know, October is going to be a big month for Nintendo fans.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So next thing. Why don't we talk about the WarioWare? I know it's a smaller one.
Yeah.
But that's kind of crazy, too. That was kind of out of left field. And another... I won't say a big announcement, because it's not a big game. It's kind of a silly, stupid game. But it's one that a lot of people have been like, we want WarioWare back, you know?
The only thing that I'm not necessarily, about with the WarioWare one is the fact that there's always been all the different characters in the games, and apparently from what it showed in the trailer, depending on the character you're playing as, the minigame will change as to how you are supposed to solve it. The whole idea of WarioWare is, holy shit, I have 5 seconds, I have to do the thing. I don't want to have to like strategize like, oh well, I'm playing as at 9 volts, so I need to make sure that because his moves function like X, Y, and Z, I do this like that. It's totally missing the point of WarioWare. WarioWare is unbridled chaos. It's supposed to stay like that. You're not supposed to think all but for a second and a half to figure out what you might be doing, and you move on to the next one. You just go. But I'm not saying that it like gonna ruin it. I'm sure it's gonna be a fine entry into the series. But yeah, WarioWare, it's wild.
I think all in all, we hadn't seen WarioWare for a while. People had been wondering where it was, and it does have kind of a cult following, so it was another strong announcement, you know? And it had a date. It was October, another October game. So that's nice. I mean, can I tell you the thing that makes Nintendo win for me before we get a little bit further in?
What?
The thing that makes Nintendo win, everything we saw at the Nintendo show had gameplay. Every one of those games had gameplay and a date attached. Like, that to me is a strong showing. It's much better than the gobbledygook we get from Xbox, which is just trailers of nothing. You know what I mean? Like, like we had the Kazuya, he's launching here. This is the date for him. We had Dread. Here's the date for Dread. We had Superstars, October. WarioWare, October. Even the games we're about to talk about, they all have dates. They all had gameplay. And that's what I want to see. Like, that's what I want to see out of my E3 conference. And that's why I really I thought they were the best, 100%.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the next one, which really surprised me. And I don't know if you're going to agree with this. Mario Super Rush Golf. So this is a game that wasn't even on my radar. It was like, oh, Mario Golf game, whatever. People like it, whatever. They turned me around on it, Neil. I actually pre-ordered it.
Is it the speed golf mode?
It's not just that, though. They have an entire role-playing game in it for a created golfer. Like, you create your own golfer based on, like, a Mii or whatever, and then you actually, like, there's a mode for that where you actually, like, level up with them, and you do bigger courses, and you do bigger things. Like, they even had these weird, crazy boss fights with golf. Like, I'm like, this game looks so crazy and unique, and it has so many modes. I just have to play this game. Like, I have to play it. Even more so, like, and this was something about the entire Direct, is this Direct, like, all of these shows had the, like, post-show, like, coverage where they showed more in-depth stuff. And Nintendo's is the Treehouse, obviously.
Yeah.
I had the Treehouse on all day that day. Like, after the Direct was done, I left the Treehouse on while I cleaned and did work and, dealt with Aubrey and all other stuff, and Stella and stuff like that. I didn't just sit there and watch it, but it was on all day. I didn't do that with any other conference, you know? And that's just a testament to what Nintendo did with that. Like, they really made me want to know more about these games. And they turned me out. I never thought I'd want a golf game in my entire life. That golf game looks awesome. It looks awesome, especially after the Treehouse stuff. It looked great. There's special moves. The speed golf looks fucking fun as hell. Like, I cannot wait to play that game or to have people over and play that game. I'm not even going to lie to you. And I'm saying this now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him to, because I know that Phil Billy's wife is very into to Mario Golf. She played on GameCube, so she's actually excited about this one. This might be finally the prelude where we get a guest on that isn't you and your wife, and we get Phil Billy and his wife on to play Mario Golf. Although I know Phil Billy will just be upset the entire time, but but I think that might be the game right there. Nonetheless, I actually got really excited about it, man. I really did. They turned me around on a golf game. I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, that's one that I definitely want to try because I actually used to have long ago for the 64. It was like Tiger Woods Golf 2003 or something like that. It was 2003, 98. I don't know, one of those years. It was a game for the 64. But like I used to play the crap out of that for like no reason. I'm not a fan of golf or anything.
Right.
I like putt, but that's about it.
Right.
But yeah, that it looks like it's got enough for me. It scratches that sort of sports itch for me.
Yeah.
I like those weird, wacky. It's like, yeah, it's a sports game, but there's a crazy twist to it, and it does look like it's very interesting.
You know, can I tell you, I'm a huge tennis fan in real life, and the Mario Superstar Aces looked really interesting to me. The reason I didn't get it though is there's not enough like sports stat stuff. Like if when I play a sports game, the thing I like the most is like creating my own team and like a franchise mode and stuff. Even when I don't know the sport, I just love to like look at the stats and put together the best team. And with the tennis thing, there was no like created character or find new ranks or move through it. It was kind of you picked a character and you did, you know what I mean? Kind of like Mario Kart. That's one thing about this golf game that has me excited is like I can create a character and play an entire golf game. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some about that I don't know. It's like you said, they're really scratching an itch for a sports game. So even though it's kind of wacky, so I'm kind of really excited to try it. So, can I keep us going and move on to the next thing I want to talk about? All right. Next thing I want to talk about, hands down, I'm super excited about this game. And after the response to my Rise video, I didn't know that I'd be excited for another one of these, but I'm excited for Monster Hunter Stories. And I don't know why Capcom did this, but they had, the trailer on their 30-minute show, and then it was like they gave everything to Nintendo. Nintendo had this huge in-depth gameplay trailer, and then on Treehouse, they played it for fucking 40 minutes. That one, I'm not going to lie, I sat down for a lot of that one because I wanted to see what that was. And it's like Monster Hunter, but you can actually like collect the monsters and train them, almost like Pokemon. And then it becomes a turn-based fighter, a turn-based RPG. I am so excited for that, and I didn't think I'd be excited for a turn-based game. I'm very rarely excited for turn-based games, and that one is getting a demo, my friend, the 25th of June for a week. If you got a Switch, you can download that game and try it in Capcom fashion, which I will 100% be doing, and hopefully getting out my first impressions. And hopefully my first impressions are good, because I don't want to fight with the internet anymore. But yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's Monster Hunter Stories 2. I didn't know there was a Monster Hunter Stories.
So it was a long time ago on like I think either PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this game has been a long time coming, and one of the things they didn't say it in the trailer, but during the deep dive, they were like, "Look, if you played the first one, you're gonna get a lot of extra like stuff here." But you can easily play this game from scratch, understand everything in it, and not need to have ever played the first one. But they said there's like a lot of references to the first one that are completely explained, but like you'll get more out of if you played the first one, but you're completely fine to not play it. Like this is the jumping on point for them. And I really liked everything they showed at that trailer. Like everything they showed. Like the riding the monsters and the strategy of moving around the open world. They still have all the crafting in there. They still have all the hunting in there. But I love the idea of like pulling eggs back and getting your monsters and training them and deciding which monsters you take with you. It's just such a cool idea for the Monster Hunter world. I'm very excited about it. Very excited. Yeah. Hey, and the demo comes out on the 25th. You should try it, man. You should try it. You tried Rise, you might as well try this one too.
Yeah, true. Turn-based RPG is a lot more up my alley.
Mm-hmm. This might be the Monster Hunter game for you, man.
It could be.
Okay, so I think we only have, 2 more things to talk about on Nintendo? Or was that it?
Potentially? I don't know. I mean, the only thing that's left in my mind is the big show ender.
You've been waiting for it. I know I keep
Yeah.
and you're like, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the big one. I want to talk about the end. All right, well, let's talk about the end one. Let's talk about the end one. Let's just do it. If I miss anything on the Nintendo thing, we can talk about it another time. But let's do it.
Yeah, so...
Because I know you're not going to like it, and I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it at all.
I have a couple different thoughts about it, but the one that grabbed me right out of the gate is the fact that this is still so far off, they don't have a big enough trailer to show you that's like... I don't know how to describe it. I wanted more out of the trailer.
Okay.
It was more random flashes of things, and we got to see a little bit of gameplay, which was great.
We did.
Yeah, and it's very interesting what it is that they've got going on. But what gets me is it's definitely not what people were thinking, that it was just going to be like a too big for DLC sort of situation. They were just going to shuffle up the map throw a couple extra things in there and call it a day. It's a complete overhaul. You're just kind of using the same map because now the sky is a part of it. And they really want you to play Skyward Sword because of all of the stuff that's in it.
Right.
But I still wanted more out of that. I wanted some sort of cohesive, I guess, showing of the trailer cinematic at the beginning, because they did what they did before. Like I said, just a bunch of random flashes. You don't know what the fuck is going on, and then random jump cuts of things. And the other thing that jumped forward in my mind is looking at that, and then they said that they were shooting for a 2022 release.
Early 2022 is what they said.
Yeah, I don't know. Given the fact that they've only showed this much, early 2022 can mean, let's just say, 8 months from now, maybe?
Look, Nintendo is very weird about this stuff, man. And, if this was... Okay, so if this was Xbox, right? Or if this was Sony or Enix or any of those guys, I'd be 100% on your train. And I'd be like, there's no way this is coming out early 2022. It's going to be way later. But Nintendo is very strange about this stuff. You don't get in-depth trailers until it's almost going to come out. I mean, most of these games are coming out 3 or 4 months from now. That's how they've been doing things for the last 2 years. And it makes me kind of believe that, they didn't do that with Breath of the Wild. So everybody was expecting kind of more in-depth stuff on Breath of the Wild and then delays. We haven't gotten that, but I think that's part of I think they've kind of reworked how they're disseminating information to us, and I think that's what's going into that. I think they're intentionally not showing us a lot or giving us dates because this game is farther out than 4 months, period. So I think that's their thought process. It's we don't want to give you a date. We don't even want to give you what we've given you. The only reason we've done it is you guys would hate us if we didn't. We're giving you this, we want to give you gameplay and then a date that's within 5 months. That's what they want to do, and they haven't been able to do that. And I think this trailer was a direct response to the backlash from the last Direct, when Skyward Sword was the focus, and everybody else, whatever. That's what I think. I think 100% that they got shit on for the Skyward Sword thing so hard that they were we can't not show something. But I think in a perfect world, they wouldn't even showed us Breath of the Wild here. I think we would have gotten gameplay reveal in November at another Direct, and that gameplay reveal would have given us a date, and it would have been February or March.
I want to make a bold prediction.
Okay.
I think that this Breath of the Wild sequel, which they still did not give us a name of, which is really weird.
Yeah.
This Breath of the Wild sequel is going to be on this rumored Switch Pro hardware because it looks too good. And I think that they're going to do, because they have a history of this when they launch a new Zelda game, of having it cross-generation. I think that they're going to do that. It's going to be available on the Switch or the Switch Pro, but if they put it on the regular Switch, it's only going to be able to be played via streaming.
I will make that pizza bet in a heartbeat, because I don't think there's a Switch Pro. I think this is a media creation that just keeps picking up steam, because Nintendo has said nothing but contrary words. Nothing but contrary words.
Right. To that I will say, video game industry lies all the time.
No, but they do. I don't think they do lie, but I think that like the video game industry, the video game media is always like, well, it's been this amount of years, so we should see this. Like they don't think about it that way. And Switch isn't thinking, like Nintendo isn't thinking we need more power. Nintendo is thinking we need more games. Like that's it. That's all Nintendo is thinking, because they've never had the power, so why would they need it now? Right. While I agree with you that they should have a Nintendo Pro at some point, just because a lot of their strategy this time around has been, porting over games from other systems, and they're not going to be able to do that with the Series X and PS5 when it starts to go to that. I don't think they need it yet. Is there guys in a laboratory in Nintendo right now working on a better Switch? Absolutely. Not going to argue that one at all. Is it anywhere near being made? No, it's not, in my opinion. So I'll take a pizza bet if you're up for it.
Yeah, I'll take a pizza bet on that.
All right, everybody, you know the drill. Let it be known today on June 19th. That is not the air date of 2021, Neil and I have entered into a pizza bet. The pizza bet is this: should Breath of the Wild 2 come out cross-generation with a Switch Pro, I owe Neil a pizza. Should Breath of the Wild 2 come out in nowhere near the Switch Pro, he owes me a pizza.
Domino's is going to get really confused really fast.
Yeah, they are.
They're just like, I don't know what's going on. Like,
we're sending the fucking pizzas?
We're just sending pizzas to these guys' houses. Like, they didn't order it. It's a totally different person. I don't know what's going on.
I do like, also on the Nintendo subject, all the Majora's Mask comparisons on this one.
Yeah. I don't get Majora's Mask vibes. I really, especially given the fact they keep driving home the comparisons, because the last trailer or whatever they had for the Skyward Sword thing, they were like, oh, see the stamina meter? That was a thing that started in this game that eventually got put in Breath of the Wild, and now they have the whole diving from the sky that they have, and they're like, see, it's a thing. It's a good game. We promise. Here, we're gonna put it on Switch. Give it a try again.
I think that you definitely see why Skyward Sword, like that trailer, if it did anything, it was like, oh, that's why you remastered Skyward Sword.
Yeah, I was like definitely.
The minute you saw those floating islands, you're like, oh, Skyward Sword. Got it. I think it's interesting though, because everybody's made this like, because the timeline of Zelda is so insane, and they never tell you directly where anything is for the most part. They've got the compendium, but when the games are actually coming out, they're not like, this is where it goes. They just release the game and let people kind of decide. It's interesting that everybody put this after everything, but this could be before anything. You realize that means that Breath of the Wild could literally be actually the first game. It could actually be before Skyward Sword, and then Breath of the Wild 2 is how we get Skyward Sword.
I would agree with you, with the exception of after playing Skyward Sword, it is very much establishing everything. You're forging the Master Sword. Zelda's just a person. Rome, Zelda's father, is pretty much just a dude. Everyone's just dudes and people. Right. Even Ganon. Like, Ganon is established in there.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I know the Ganon establishment, but like they never actually established Ganon in Breath of the Wild. They really don't when you think about it. He's just an energy force.
Yeah,
He's
and I
not
think,
a demon. You could very easily transfer it into, once whatever happened in Breath of the Wild, he actually personified into this person. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. You know, I do agree that there's the whole like forging of the Master Sword thing, which it would be a hard thing because the Master Sword is in Breath of the Wild. It gets forged in the Skyward Sword, so it's kind of like, how does that happen? But you know, they've also always had that like the Koraks or whatever, like why they're tree people now, but they're normal people in Ocarina. You know what I mean?
trying to think.
The fucking tree people,
They're
the little bush guys that you find everywhere. They actually say,
yeah,
like,
those,
they're
yeah, those are
actually the people that Link lives with in Ocarina. The little Munchkin people that he lives with in the tree forest. Those are the same things.
I think. Well, I was about to say I got to stop myself because I think that's another lore rabbit hole that we could stumble down
It is.
onto.
I mean, Zelda has a ton of them, but what I'm saying is it's so like out there that it's very easy that they could be like, actually, this leads to Skyward Sword. You know what I mean?
It could fall somewhere on the timeline. The timeline's fucking weird.
Timeline's super weird. There's actually 3 of them. I've watched. There's this leaderboard episode where they do the entire timeline of Zelda. It's amazing. I urge you to watch it. It's like 25 minutes, and they go into every timeline, how they break, where they think Breath of the Wild is on the timeline. And I've watched it 14 times, and I still don't think I understand. Like, I still can go back to it and watch it and be like, okay, now what happens? Like, it's just such a crazy branching storyline. So I'm kind of done on the Nintendo show, but I think we got to be done with this episode, man. I don't think we have time for odds and ends either. We're at an hour and 33 minutes at this point.
Yeah.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
You've come to the end of the show, which is the shameless self-promotion. Wow, I screwed that up. Man, it's 2 a.m.
Fine, it's whatever.
Yeah, fuck it. That brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, do you have anything special you want to plug? Because I got a couple of things.
Well, not really. We are about to. We're gonna be recording some more Halo Infinite Road here soon. Hopefully, barring any sort of shenaniganery that happened last time. Did that episode go up yet or no? No, it didn't.
No, that goes up Friday.
Yeah, that's yes. That I'll tell you. It's just fun. This is stellar, and we will need to record again sooner than we had anticipated.
I love Neil's internet. It's my favorite.
It's the best.
Okay, I have 2 new shows. Number 1, I decided to do a show with my 5-year-old daughter Stella. It's called Stella's Show.
This is great.
We play the Mario Party Raft game, and it's we did 3 episodes. The capture card failed on the 3rd episode, so I just kind of summarized it because it was only 10 minutes anyway. The theme song is sung by me and Stella, and the picture for the main title is a picture Stella literally drew for it. She's super excited to do this show, so that's going to be going up on Tuesdays. About 1 p.m. Premiere episode will be going up, well, if you're listening to this today at 1 p.m. If you're watching this, it went up yesterday. I urge people to go check it out. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be... I really want to see what people think of it, because I think it's cute as hell, but I've been back and forth on whether other people will find it entertaining or not, so we'll see.
I'll tell you right now, this is the first I'm hearing of it. If this isn't fucking gold... Gold.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing it. It's kind of crazy because it's a lot of just us yelling at each other and her yelling things that are just random crazy things. Yes. I also give her a chance to do her own thoughts at the end of the show. Like, what do you want to say to the people? And she says crazy things, like completely crazy things to the people. I always want her to go on a rant. She never does. It's always like one word that like, okay, I guess that's a thing. So, yeah, it's going to be entertaining. The other thing I want to promote is Outriders 330 wasn't working for us. It wasn't working for the fans. They definitely were not receptive to it. So, if we're going to get low views anyway, me and Philbilly decided to play a game that neither one of us had any problems with whatsoever, and it's a lot of fun. We're playing Wasteland 3, which is the turn-based tactical shooter from inXile. That's amazing. But what's really cool about it is you get to create all your characters custom in it. So me and Phil will be creating all the custom characters from community members.
Yes.
We based my character off me and his character off him, and any character we recruit will be community members. The first 3 episodes, we don't get to that yet. But they're very entertaining episodes, and you can definitely tell that we both enjoy that game. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. That's going to be replacing Outriders 330 and coming out this Friday. For anything else on the channel, and we're sorry this episode went way long, but it kind of got away from us.
It's the E3 episode.
It is. For everything else, you can find it here. Let's Plays, streams, all sorts of fun stuff. You can also contact us on Facebook at OhManGamingDH, on Twitter at OhManGaming9. You can join our Discord. The link will be in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows from there. And as usual, guys, as long as you keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them, and we'll be back next week. Alright, man, we're done. Do you think we were funny enough in the in-betweens?
What do you mean? Like
for the opening and the closing. Obviously, I'm going to use that story for either the opening or closing. But do you think we had enough funny stuff in the in-between? Say some funny shit right now.
That's not how that works.
Yeah, it is. Just say some funny.
No,
shit.
And
Neil,
and what is the
Neil,
the sudden concern?
Neil,
I need validation. Am I funny? Please tell me, love me, daddy.
Just say some funny shit, Neil.
What I just said wasn't good enough?
It was kind of good enough. It was
kind of good enough. It's acceptable. I guess. I suppose. If I must.
The bar that we've set, yeah, probably. Like I don't know if like we could get away with it if we had a ton of followers, but we don't. You know, we're up to 274 now.
I saw the other day. Yeah. I definitely don't check as often as I used to because it was kind of toxic for me. Yeah.
It's toxic. Okay, that's fair. I'm not gonna give you shit about it then. I'm not gonna give you shit. But
yeah, no, yeah. I will. If now it kind of winds up being like a once a month situation, and it just so happened the other day that I did look and I saw that.
Yeah, we got some people. And I streamed a new game the other day. It was fun. It's fun. That's why what I need you to do right now is say some funny shit.
Just on a dime. How about some fart noises?
Pick a word that's funny. One single word that's funny. What jumps into your head?
Oh man, it's usually like random just fucking.
The funniest word you can think of right now.
I'll tell you, when I'm at work, I yell at people and call them stupid things like fucking dick nipple and whatnot. Like, there's that.
Dick
I don't know if that.
And I'm just gonna cut the episode right there.